Hey, ATL, I'm Tenitra Batiste, and I hope you're still buzzing from Thursday because, hey, a win is a win.
I'm Aaron Freeman, and the Falcons bring Kirk Cousins back in 2026. I'll feel bad for the team, but it will be tremendous content.
I'm Jarvis Davis. We talking about running it back? I don't know about that.
Rise up, A-Town. It's the Falcon Squad. Everything Atlanta Falcons every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the ATL. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Straight from the ATL, the Falcon Squad Show starts now.
Welcome to the Falcon Squad Show, your home for the best Atlanta Falcons football talk. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me are Locked On Falcons host Aaron Freeman, Locked On analyst Jarvis Davis, and Falcons senior reporter Tori McElhaney will be joining us shortly. The Squad Show is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports network. So today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So what have the rookies and rookies 2.0 proven or have to prove? We'll discuss. And Kirko gives back and fans can double up today too. We'll download on that. But first, let's talk about the kind of sort of elephant in the room about Kirko. And listen to this, Jarvis. Kirk Cousins addressed 2026 in an interview with Sports Illustrated recently, where he responded to whether he wants to be a starting QB again next year. He said, quote, I think those are kind of March questions. We're in December. We just have to play our schedule here, get through this, the next 3 games, and understand that if you play football well and if you win, those kinds of conversations will take care of themselves. Now, the challenge is if you don't get the job done here and now in December, then you don't give yourself the options come this spring. My focus is on these next 3 weeks. So do you think, first off, that Cousins has made the case for the Falcons to keep him around for the start of next season in case Michael Penix Jr. can't go on opening day, or considering the Falcons could save $35 million cap space if they release him, is it more likely that Kirk is really making the case to be a starter elsewhere?
Absolutely not. No, there's no way that you bring Kirk back at that number. You're talking about counting $57 million against the cap. No, I'm cool. I'm cool on that. So I know it sounds good in the ideal world, and we know that Kirk has been the consummate professional with this thing, but we also know that Kirk is a killer and he like his money, you know. So I'm sitting as we sit here currently, I know he's saying, yep, I still got a little something left in the tank and I want to test that open market. So yeah, y'all go ahead and cut me because I'm not agreeing to any trade. So you forget all about that if you're trying to get something for me. So yeah, and then that $10 million kicks in. So I'm assuming that he's going to be cut almost as immediately after the season is over with, because there's no reason for, I feel, that him playing ball, so to speak, it will happen if they were to at least consider it or broach this topic again.
Yeah. And what about you, Aaron? I mean, Jarvis makes a great point about the fact that, hey, if you keep him, that's going to be a $57 million hit. You could at least save $35 million cap space if you release him. But on the same token, you don't know if for opening day in 2026, you'll have Michael Penix Jr. And this is all also kind of on the scenario that you even have the same coaching staff in place that would then want to have a Kirk Cousins back. So there's that kind of caveat too. But for you, if we just look at it from a base level, kind of assuming that there's a regime that may consider bringing Kirk Cousins back in 2026, would you think that's what they should do?
Well, as someone who wants to see the Falcons succeed, that sounds like a terrible plan to me, bringing Kirk Cousins back. As someone who is a podcast,
terrible quarterback plan, Aaron? No, yeah, never heard that before.
I know, Jarvis. It's like we've never seen that happen before in Atlanta. But as a podcaster that enjoys having great content, oh yes, please bring back Kirk Cousins, because we are going to get tremendous content next year because there's going to be a full-blown quarterback controversy. This idea that, oh, well, Kirk Cousins, he's going to be a bridge quarterback and he'll start, 4 to 6 games, and then we'll just easily transition once Michael Penix is healthy and ready to come back, and he'll come off this AC. Like, no, of course that's not going to happen.
No.
Like, either Kirk Cousins is going to play well and keep the job, and Michael Penix is going to stay on the bench, or Kirk Cousins is going to play poorly, and then, like, again, the infinite permutations. Basically, with the Atlanta Falcons, whatever you think is the worst outcome that could happen will be the outcome that actually does wind up happening. And so they have to cut Kirk Cousins just to save cap space, right? You mentioned the $35 million in cap space that they would save. That would only be a post-June 1 cut. They have to make him a pre-June 1 cut to save like $22 million because they have no cap space. They're like $1 million under the salary cap as we sit here today. They're like, when you factor in rookies and fulfilling a full roster, they're like $11 million over the salary cap. They have to cut Kirk Cousins, and any notion of like, oh, well, we'll restructure and we'll bring him back to be a bridge. And it's like, well, even though we tried this strategy in 2024 and it didn't work, but this time, it's going to work this time. Like, there's no possible way that like the Falcons can go forward with this idea of like the most expensive bridge in NFL history. And they're going to keep doing that. Like, and they're going to think it's going to work out this time. Like, yeah, I think it's a crazy idea, but again, because I'm a podcaster and I need the content on a daily basis, sure, do it. And let's just have full-blown QB drama for the entirety of 2026.
Aaron, you're so right, because you don't even have to wait for the drama and the controversy to start in 2026, because as of 12:08 p.m., Fan Till Death 528 trajectory has already started it in the chat. He literally says, please don't run it back with Kirk, trade for Shedeur Sanders. But the more important piece he said, I know, Jarvis, right?
Gosh, no.
Yeah. So the controversy has already started, because then he says, and have a QB battle with Penix, and pick up what you can for Kirk. Or if we must have a bridge QB next year, he then goes and talks about Jameis Winston and waiting to draft. But the point being, here we are just posing the question at 12:08 on December 15th, and it is still controversial, because that's what it does. It just brings up, but we saw it earlier this season, right? We saw the millisecond it was time for Kirk Cousins to come in for that game against the Miami Dolphins when Michael Penix Jr. couldn't go. Man, the first thought was not that you wanted to see Kirk go have that poor of a performance, if you will, but the conversation still started. And we already know, once we knew MPX was done for the season and you were going to see Kirk go, and he got progressively better as the games went on, it's like, here we go. So you're right. That controversy would be, we'll call it challenging. We'll call it challenging, to say the least, if that was the decision that the Falcons made. But like you said, Aaron, as well, there are some nuances there, right? Because you do have, hey, do we want to save an additional 13 mil by waiting until June 1st? Or do we want to just get it done earlier so that we have the opportunity to get maybe the best backup QB that's out there on the market? So that is kind of a nuance, if you will, to that conversation. And listen, it's not just Kirk. That's he's kind of the starting point of the conversation of what the Falcons will do for players who, like he said, focusing on December, the last couple of games of the season, last several games of the season, and they're playing for either their futures with the Falcons or their futures with a different team in the NFL. So, Jarvis, I got to ask that question too, when you not just look at Kirk Cousins, but a host of Falcons players who are likely playing for a contract elsewhere. I mean, how can that maybe motivate them to help the Falcons end the season on a winning note? Because, hey, if there's a win Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals, and these guys who are playing for contracts, like maybe a Kyle Pitts Sr., can that be a motivation for them to say, hey, I know I got 3 more cracks at this to make sure that if I want to stay with the Falcons, I can, or I'm building a resume and a sizzle reel for my next team?
Oh, T, you just named the poster child for exactly what you just talking about. Kyle Pitts Sr., you could put him on a billboard off 75, 85 but where Turner Field used to be. RIP, baby. Yeah, he is the poster child for, I'm trying to get paid, and I don't care whose logo is on that doggone check going forward. Because here's the thing, like I think that Kyle in that game against the Bucks, he really gave depicted how much he's lacked as a player since he's been with the Falcons, because he showed why the Falcons took him 4th overall, but he's also has shown from just the entire body of work standpoint that he can't be counted on. Mm-hmm. And that just proved it. The way he played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers proved that he can't be consistent, or he's inconsistent. Mm-hmm. Because if you were consistent, I'm not saying you're going to get 3 touchdowns and over 100 yards receiving and all that stuff and just basically going to get a coach fired more than likely at the end of the year in tie bowls. I'm not expecting that every game, but it has to be a floor. That floor is still low for him because he can totally disappear in games. So I think when you talk about guys that are playing for contracts, Kyle Pitts is right there. And I know he probably knocking on Kirkenson's door like, hey, Kirk, you know what I'm saying, we want to go over some film. Or he probably at Zach's door like, hey, Zach, can you put me in some crossing routes? You know what I'm saying? I like them crossing routes. You know what I'm saying? Like people get crossed up. I can run away from folks. So, they call them man beaters. So yeah, let's run those man beater plays. And so we can, so I can still get this money. You know what I'm saying? Because you might not be around here either. So you probably want to start doing your best job as well. So yeah, I think overall, yeah, Kyle Pitts is one of those guys that you look at and say, yeah, you're probably going to get his best effort in these last 3 games.
Yeah. And Aaron, there could be a couple other players out there who are right at that moment. Arnold and Katie comes to mind, who are right there at the cusp of, hey, I've got these 3 games to either prove one of 2 things, that I'm worthy of the Falcons giving me a contract, or I am trying to create that real, I'm auditioning for those other 31. So yeah, when you look at some of the other players in addition to Kirk Cousins or even Kyle Pitts, I mean, how much motivation is it for them to help the Falcons in on a winning note? Because hey, a win in Arizona and a win against the Rams and or a win against the Saints, that's a win for them for that next contract.
Yeah, I think Arnold Ebiketie is a good pull there, T, just because like you've seen, even though he's not getting the sacks that other guys are getting over the last month of the season, as far as like generating pressures, he's actually been like leading the team. And like for a certain stretch of the season, he was like top 5 in like win rate or whatever when it comes. And that's been kind of since the trade deadline where there were some rumors about whether or not the Falcons would move him. And I think Arnold Ebiketie is one of those players that's, the minute the Falcons drafted Jalen Walker and James Pearce, he knew the writing was otherwise. I ain't getting a new contract here. And so I got to put my best foot forward to get a contract elsewhere. And I think over the last, 4 to 6 weeks, I think he's started to sort of turn things around and in terms of putting that foot forward in terms of generating pressure and whatnot. And so I think guys like him, Leonard Floyd, Leonard Floyd is the consummate mercenary on a 1-year deal. Caden Ellis is also in a contract year and is over the age of 30. And are the Falcons going to bring him back, or are they going to try to get younger at that position? That is certainly a topic of discussion moving forward. Obviously we mentioned Tyler Algier as another player that, I think he had like 2 carries against the Bucs this past Thursday, and it's like, hey, but he made the most of those 2 carries, and so we'll see if they start feeding him a little bit more over these final 3 games, so that he can do his best to make his name as well. So there's a number of Falcon players that you can expect them to play really well, even if they're not necessarily locked in to maximize the Falcons' win chances. They're locked in that, hey, if I play good football, that's going to help me in the long run. And if the byproduct is, the Falcons win a couple more games to close out the season, that's a bonus at this point.
Yeah. And maybe, and you make a great point, Free, maybe it's one of those situations where also we haven't talked about it. We're not necessarily going to go into it right now. Actually, maybe something kind of on the other side to talk about. So when we come back, maybe we talk a little bit about, it may not be about wins per se, but even if you don't get 1, 2, or 3 wins for these final 3 games of the season, it could certainly be not just a help for players on the field, but what happens to the guys on the sidelines as well. We'll talk about that when we take it under further review. This episode of our Falcon Squad show is brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories. Because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos will be a good look for them. And endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. And you can add a personalized message right inside the frame so the gift feels thoughtful the moment it's open. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Again, that's auraframes.com, promo code locked on. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. So, guys, this is one of those situations, the last 3 games, where obviously, Tori, there is no playoff or postseason to speak of to play for, but there's still a lot for the players to play for. There's still a lot for the coaches to coach for as the Falcons get ready for the final 3 games of the season. I would say, and we kind of talked about this post-game, Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson, Jeff Ulbrich, especially in those final couple of minutes of that game, they pretty much outdueled and outcoached Todd Bowles and his coaching staff. So how much, if at all, maybe did that win and maybe the wins to come, but how much did that even start making the case for the Falcons to maybe keep Raheem Morris one more season, maybe even his staff in place?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives you something to think about.
Yes.
But I think that there's also a case that can be made that this game happens within a vacuum.
Sure.
And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on a slide. Like,
Yep.
You found them at the right moment. I think there's also something to be said about this Falcons team fighting the way they did. Like, they don't have anything to fight for. And this was something that I wrote about after the game. It's like, there's no playoff contention. There's no really getting to 500. Like, none of that is up for grabs right now. And so you are playing for individual contracts. You are playing for your next contract. You're playing for kind of the guys beside you. And that's what this team did. I mean, the fact of the matter is like, there were multiple points in time where that Falcons team could have just let it go, like let the game go. I don't know if anyone would blame them knowing that there were 19 total penalties. The fact that they were able to kind of even stay in the game despite being penalized 125 yards, like, is in and of itself a very crazy stat and very weird. So there's that. Like, it's the same, it's a different side of the same coin where it's like, you can say that the Falcons fought and did what they needed to do and showed up, and that comes from, like, you know, the identity of your team. But the other side of the coin is the Falcons went into that game being out of playoff contention, not being in the spot they needed to be, underperforming offensively for a majority of the season. So it goes both ways. And I really don't know. It'll I think depend on what the next 3 games looks like. If you kind of go out and lay an egg against Arizona, if you kind of let the Rams run all over you on Monday Night Football, if you allow the Saints to do what they've done in the last 2 weeks, surprisingly, which is beat the Bucs and the Panthers, like, if you allow those things to happen, then it's a different conversation. So I think we're a little too early to be making any delineations one way or the other.
Yeah, maybe too early to be a little definitive. And Aaron, you know, it's like we said, maybe it's the start. Maybe it's not the end, but maybe it's the start of the conversation of, hey, did a win, and especially if you can string another one this Sunday, but does that help the case, or does that even, I think Tori kind of framed it a little bit better, does it get you to thinking, well, maybe Raheem Morris or Jeff Ulbrich or Zach Robinson or even Marquise Williams, maybe they kind of sort of making a case for us to think twice about whether or not we want to run it back for them for a third season. But I think that's the question. Like, did it even start to make the brass think about it?
Well, I think for Arthur Blank, maybe you can say it does, just because I think by all indications, from what we understand, Arthur Blank wants to keep Raheem Morris because of their relationship. For someone like me who, has a deep and dark heart, no, it doesn't necessarily move the needle for me, because like you see some of the same issues that this team has. And sort of, I think part of the conversation is like, well, why couldn't you do this before? Right. We had this similar situation after they beat the Saints in an impressive fashion, and then found a way to lose a game against the Jets. Now, I think the thing about this Bucs game is that they did find a way to win, but you saw some of the same issues that this team has struggled with throughout the season. It's
True.
Always something, in this game, it was the penalties, almost a record-breaking amount of penalties. And then, you saw the same third quarter struggles that this team has consistently had. The one thing that changed in this Bucs game is that in the fourth quarter, the Falcons played good football and found a way to come back and win that football game. But it feels like so often with this current regime where it's like this team is always putting themselves in a bad spot. And even though they found a way to win this game, like, I don't know if that's going to really should move the needle in a positive way to keep this regime. Now, as Tori said, and as you said, T, like, if you can come back in these last three games and play a much better brand of football, a cleaner brand of football, and be a lot more impressive in how you win these games, as opposed to just like, oh, well, we'll figure it out eventually. Mm-hmm. These types of wins that the Falcons have overwhelmingly had this season, I think that would do a lot more to sort of change the math when it comes to consideration for this coaching staff. But until we see that, like, I feel like this is just kind of more of the same. And it's just they happen to get a positive result this time against the Bucs, as opposed to the previous times when we have seen this team play undisciplined, play sloppy, play inconsistent, and it always results, or more often than not, this season it has resulted in losses. But this time it was able to result in a win.
Yeah, and that's a good point that you guys make as well, and that Tori and Aaron make, Jarvis, because it's one of those where a win is a win, but you almost have to put quotes or an asterisk, around quality, because when you look at the Bucs, it's like Tori said, trending down. And I saw something earlier today that said this was like the saddest division ever, because does anybody really want to win the division? Because you look at the fact that the Bucs are who they are, and they're just kind of on a skid. There's no one over 500, not them, not the Panthers, no positive point differential, just somebody who at some point is going to host the playoff game by default. So it is maybe not the most quality of quality wins, but it's still a W, right? And it still gives you the opportunity to maybe start stating your case about, hey, think about if we can do that, string together wins, or string together maybe more quality performances in the last couple of games. Maybe that makes Arthur Blank and company think twice about how they're going to proceed with this regime.
And I'll make a case for that Arthur Blank wants to see these type of wins, regardless of how they got there, right? Because, like, the respect that Free mentioned that Arthur Blank has for Raheem Morris, I think that's a real thing, and he's only been here 2 years. So, like, outside of just them just crapping the bed these last three games, I feel like Raheem Morris is going to stick around. And but a guy that I feel like he's probably out of here regardless of I think if Raheem Morris sticks around, I feel like a guy that's not going to be around is going to be Marquise Williams, because it was just too consistent. You gave up several roster spots for guys who only played special teams. That is unheard of in my eyes. Like, to be able to have guys that only play special teams for you, and there's no chance of them ever getting in on one side of the football. So to be a contributor. So yeah, I think there was too much given to that unit for them to perform the way they did in 2025. So yeah, I think he's the guy that I don't feel like it doesn't matter what he does special teams wise. I think he's out of here. So, but I think overall though, I think the jury's still out on Raheem Morris and Terry, because I really feel that this is going to be, next year is going to be a year to super evaluate and look at this entire organization and then make a decision in it for the 2027 going forward.
Yeah, and maybe a part of that, Tori, is because, and we're going to talk about both of the classes, but maybe a part of that is because you have a rookie class of 2025 that had its ups and downs as far as players being challenged with injury. And then even the same of the class of 2024, starting with the top of the class, being challenged with injury both this year and last year. That's why we always kind of bring them in as like rookie class 2.0, because yeah, other teams have had injuries, if you will. But when you start looking at the positions that the Falcons have had injuries with, particularly you're starting with QB1, like you can't overlook how that could impact. And not just when Michael Penix Jr. went down for the season, but there was that game where he wasn't available, for the Dolphins as well. So those kinds of things might loom large. But I wanted to ask you, let's start with that 2025 class. This is kind of not the final quarter, I'd say maybe like the final 8 of the season, if you will. They're in their final phase of their first season, and wanted to ask what you want to see from them in these last 3 games that will help you to kind of put a stamp on 2025 with them. Or in the case of, obviously, Billy Bowman, that conversation will be a little bit different, but we'll take them one by one, starting with Jalen Walker. What do you want to see from him as he wraps up his rookie season?
Honestly, it's funny because my answer is pretty much the same for Jalen Walker, James Pearce Jr., and Xavier Watts. Like I just want to see them continue to do what they've been doing. Show a level of consistency in on a team that hasn't been consistent. Show continued growth. Show that kind of this what we've seen from James Pearce Jr. isn't a flash in the pan of the last 6 games, but this is something sustainable that can carry on into a career. Same thing with Jalen Walker, same thing with Xavier Watts. And I would say same thing for Billy Bowman Jr., despite the fact that he is no longer out, he's no longer out on the field.
Right.
I think that, to me, this already, regardless of what happens in the next 3 games, this 2025 class of these 4 defenders is already a success. They've already shown me enough to feel confident in what the Falcons have in them, what they have going forward in them, and also that this was Terry Fontenot's best draft to date. Yeah. Could the argument be made that the Falcons could have used receivers in the draft and not Jack Nelson? Absolutely. I think there are always the what if conversations that you can have, in hindsight being what it is. But I think in terms of these 4 individuals, these 4 defensive rookies that turned into starters for you, and not just starters, but productive starters in their first year, that's all you could ask for. So just continuing, I don't have a very specific answer for each one. I personally just think that they've already kind of written their story for me in year 1. Nothing that they do in the next 3 games, barring an injury, is going to change what I think they have been for this team and what I think they could be for this team moving forward.
Yeah, and James Pearce Jr., obviously, like you said, just balling out these last 6 games, 13 solo tackles and a forced fumble. But more importantly, it's that 8 sack number that really kind of sticks out because, just being able to get the quarterback on the ground, which is something that the Falcons have just thirsted for and longed for years now, is a beautiful thing. And then, of course, Jalen Walker, 21 solo tackles on the year, 5.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. So a good look for him as well. But for you, Aaron, and again, you can go the route that Tori went, where she just kind of is looking at the class holistically, or you can go, if you want to, kind of break it down individually, but just kind of looking back at this 2025, or looking forward for the final phase of the season, or back. with the class of 2025. What are you kind of looking for individually or collectively for them to make a stamp on the season?
Yeah, like Tori said, there's nothing, specific beyond like, I kind of just want to see James Pearce if he can crack 10 sacks. That's basically it at this point in time. And overall, like I think, as Tori said, this rookie class has been very impressive. It's been hugely detrimental to my anti-rookie agenda with how well these guys have been playing so far this season. And so I'll have to go back in the lab and figure out a way to, balance how much disdain I have for rookies in their performance and how well that this class has played. And we'll have to strike a compromise and be like, okay, well, maybe some rookies are able to be successful moving forward like this particular class. So we'll see on that front. But I think overall, you just want to continue to see, as Tori said, these guys continue to play well, make plays, and impact the game in positive ways, which they've done throughout the season.
Yeah. And Jarvis, you could say the same, whether you look at the class and what it's been able to do individually or collectively. There have been some real highs with this class throughout. You look at Xavier Watts, for example, with the 48 solo tackles, the 3 picks, the passes defense, 7 on the season, and a nice look from him. And I think, like Tori mentioned as well, with Billy Bowman, obviously we saw shades of what he could be before he went down with injury, with the 15 solo tackles, the 1 forced fumble, the pick, the 2 passes defense. But when you look at this class of 2025, what do you want to see individually or collectively, your call, for the rest of the season?
I call out 2 individuals, and I'll start with my guy, Jalen Walker. I have pounded the table since this man was in Athens, Georgia, about him being an edge guy. But going into these last few games, I would be very intrigued to see what he can do in a Caden Ellis role, right? I'm not saying bench Caden Ellis. I'm not saying that. But when he's in the game, when you have him moving around, have him as a stack linebacker, showing that mug look, and then blitzing, or have him dropping into coverage. I want to see what that looks like, because guess what? Caden Ellis got to get paid. And he's 30 plus. And you know how 30 plus NFL players roll. More than likely, you're not going to get that contract. So, or it's not smart. Generally, it's not smart to pay guys 30 plus, especially at that particular spot. So that's what I want to see with Jalen. I want to see what he looks like in that role. Is he comfortable in it? And I feel like he can, because I feel like that man can do whatever the hell he wants on the football field, because he's an absolute dog, pun intended. But as far as James Pearce goes, mine's a little bit more specific for him. I want him to be a two-way player. I need him to be a little bit more forceful in the run. I need a little bit more against the run, because there are some things that I saw that I felt like you probably could have beat that. You're too athletic to be doing that, looking like that in the run game. So I feel and I have to give him credit. Mm-hmm. That man has progressed nicely from a pass rush discipline standpoint, like working his moves, pushing the pocket, when he's supposed to, and then being able to separate and get off the block and make sack and put the quarterback on the ground. I just been loving how he's been progressing throughout the year. But just give me some of that, show some of the athleticism in against the run as well, because Falcons don't necessarily have him in there for that much for it, but when he's in there and they just so happen to run the football, he got to be ready.
Yeah. So what has rookies 2.0, what is that class proven, or what does that class maybe have to prove? We'll unpack it up next. This episode of our Falcon Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover, and FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up, and you can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast. So can you. So, Aaron, we were talking a little bit about the 2025 rookie class, and I always want to go back to rookies 2.0 just because the class of 2024 kind of had a grade, I believe, for us that was incomplete just because of those injuries and kind of the up and down throughout that class. But before we talk about that and get into that, I also just want to thank you guys for making the Falcon Squad Show your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network, where we get to talk about this kind of thing all day, every day, and kind of look back at this class of 2024, because it's on some level their de facto season. Now, Michael Penix Jr., granted, we know in his case, went down with injury, so it's always going to be kind of a what if, what could have been scenario with MPX. But let's talk Rukarora. What have you seen from him? What do you want to see the next 3 games, if you will? Or you look around and you look down that class: Braylon Trice, Brandon Dorlus. I know Jarvis loves to give us commentary on JD Bertrand, so I know he's going to have it. Casey Washington, but just that overall class, individually or collectively, what do you want to see?
Yeah, with Rook and Dorlus, I want to see both of those guys. It's a similar conversation we're talking about with this year's rookies, is you just want to continue to see those guys make strides. I think Dorlus has really come on over the last month as a pass rusher. I think you're seeing flashes from Rook, not to the same degree that you've had with Dorlus, but you just want to continue to see Rook do, some of the things that he has been doing, like he did in this Bucs game, using his power. That's his sort of main weapon as a pass rusher, and it doesn't have to be complicated. We knew Rook Aurora was going to be a multi-year project when the Falcons drafted him, and it's just like, okay, well, what's the one thing that you can do? It's just like, go out there and just be a bully and bully guys, and that's something I think he can do, and you saw that on display a couple of times in this Thursday night game against the Bucs, and I want to continue to see him do that. And not only does that potentially manifest as a pass rusher, I think hopefully you'll see that continue to manifest as a run defender for Rook Aurora, which was something that he was known for coming out of Clemson, and I thought did well in limited opportunity as a rookie. It hasn't been as strong in his second year, being that sort of force in the run game as I think I wanted, and maybe other people wanted him to be this upcoming season. So I think that is something that you can kind of circle for these final 3 games. If he can be a little bit more of a forceful impact player in the run game, getting some of those TFLs, being that disruptive presence, those are things that I kind of want to see from Rook Aurora.
Yeah, and Jarvis, when you look at this class, whether you want to talk about them individually or you want to talk a little bit more collectively, let's look back at 2024, because they are a class that we've always pretty much given a grade of incomplete. Where do you stand with them, and what do you want to see these final 3 games of this season?
Wow. I almost have no notes for Brandon Dorlus. That dude has become one of your better interior defensive tackles on a team. Like, I didn't see that coming, right? I thought David Onyemata was going to be able to continue to give you something, not to the point when he first got here as a Falcon, as a free agent, but you will still see flashes from time to time. But I think Brandon Dorlus is the best interior defensive tackle on this team. As far as Rook goes, I want to see some better run fits, right? Specifically when he gets double teamed. I'm not saying that I want him to be, Ted Washington or Gilbert Brown or anything like that. I'm just saying, I want to see him use that power with his technique, and as far as being able to split those guys and getting skinny and getting up in there between those guys and breaking that joint and allowing your linebacker to still float. Because what has happened in the past, well, in this particular season, is he's in that linebacker's lap, and the linebacker has no way go, So it's just like, you just want to be able to, if you're not going to be that dominant force to split that double team and get off and make the tackle like Aaron Donald, you at least want to be able to help your teammate to say, hey, I'm going to take these two and I'm going to hold them up long enough for you to diagnose this play and come down here and make the tackle. That's it. That's all you can do as a defensive tackle. So, yeah, I think that progression for him is going to be tremendous. And then when you think about, since you brought it up, T.
Yeah, it's on me.
You brought up JD Bertrand. I was in a good mood. I ain't had nothing to say about this man. I wouldn't even think about him when it comes to this conversation. When I was looking at the rundown, I was like, oh, yeah, we talk about 2024 class. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to even go down the late round picks. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got to talk about them. But since you brought him up, see, they can't even play the man on special teams. Can't even play him on special teams. Can't even play on the special teams. They had starters on the special teams on the defense side of football this past Thursday. There were starters on kickoff team. If you can't play special teams, why are you here, sir? That's all.
Tori.
Yep.
Sorry, Tori.
No, it's all good. I knew what to expect. I was like mentally preparing myself.
You were preparing. Yeah.
Glad you know me well. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've done this enough times. I know. So my evaluation of the 2024 NFL draft class.
Yes.
I kind of put them into buckets. You have your two individuals that I think are like right on track and or even overperforming in Rook and Dorless.
Yes.
Sure.
You have two individuals who are very much underperforming, have been healthy scratches recently in JD Bertrand and Casey Washington.
Yes.
That to me, that's not good. Especially Casey Washington too. Like I know we talk about JD Bertrand, but Casey Washington has been a healthy scratch for the last 4 weeks when you haven't had Drake London. That's all you need to know there. And then there's Michael Penix Jr., who's kind of in the middle of, you saw him develop, you've seen flashes, but now he's hurt. And there's a very good chance that you do not start the 2026 season with him because of his injury and his recovery time.
Yep.
And how that affects the development and steps you still need him to take when he's into the third year of his contract. Like that's kind of the buckets of which I feel like I fall within those individuals. What any of that means, I think it shows you kind of like who you have to move forward with. I think you can move forward with Rook and Brandon. I think that it shows you that you have growth that needs to happen with Michael Penix, but you still feel okay about what you have in him. You got to figure something out in the interim, but if you can get Michael Penix to be better within his development and producing at the clip you need him to, then okay. Like then you can kind of move him into the other bucket, but there's like a kind of TBD nature about Michael Penix still.
Yeah.
With JD Bertrand and Casey Washington, they're on the other side of the spectrum. And that's just kind of where things fall for me as I'm looking ahead into 2026 and who you can move forward with and help continue to build a roster around.
Tori, you sound like a general manager. I love the way you put that. Like that was so much better than the way I did. I just said, cut the mother blanket.
Yeah.
What is it? I'm media trained. Like,
right. Or for Tori, it might be like old Key and Peele, where Barack Obama,
right?
Yeah, and then
I never once thought that like I would be compared to Barack Obama, and now I've never been happier. This is the best compliment you really could have given me, Tenitra.
Because that's you, Tori. You do know in the Barack and Key and Peele, you're the Barack side of it,
right?
And Jarvis is going to be the Key and Peele side.
Honestly, I'm gonna get us T-shirts for Christmas that says like I'm the Barack to his Keenan, and he's the Keenan to my Barack. Yeah,
I love it.
Yep.
Hilarious.
I absolutely love it. But yeah, I think you make a great point, Tori. I like the way that you did kind of break it down in terms of the buckets, because that's kind of how we've had to do for the class of 25, the class of 24, and on some level, even a little bit before that, because you look at Michael Penix Jr. and it's like, right when we were starting to see signs, his body wouldn't allow us to see the rest of it. Or you look at Braylon Trice and it's like, We've never.
Oh yeah, forgot about Braylon Trice.
Exactly, Tori. Like literally, and
The
please,
Falcons did too. Shoot.
Yeah.
and look, Tori, I'm glad you said it that way because JD, like literally, I had to look multiple places because I was thinking, is my mind playing tricks on me? Because I don't think there is a stat line for Braylon Trice. So I went to 3 different outlets, where we pull our stats, and I'm like, no, there really aren't any, because we really have never gotten to see what he was, as opposed to say, like, I know some of our everydayers were kind of putting in the chat, what about the likes of like a Troy Anderson, as we were talking about JD Bertrand, just in terms of, or as we were talking about, or not talking about Braylon Trice, because he's another one where it's like, other than Jarvis, you kind of forget about Troy Anderson from time to time, like, where is he, what's going on? But I feel like with Braylon Trice, you're not off the beaten path, T, because we've not seen it. I mean, he's still part of the reason the 2024 class feels like it gets a grade of incomplete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a very fair point. I mean, the fact of the matter is like, he's in a completely different bucket all of his own. Yes. If we're putting players in buckets, like, I wouldn't put him in the bucket of JD Bertrand and KC Washington, because that seems unfair. I wouldn't put him in the bucket of Michael Penix Jr. and kind of like developing and all this kind of stuff, because I don't know where he's at in his development. So it's hard to grade someone that the only time you've ever seen them is in training camp and preseason games. And that's it. And I don't really know what the future holds for Braylon Trice, because I remember feeling so high on him his very first training camp before that first injury, and feeling like, oh, they've got something good in him. I kind of felt that sparingly as he worked back to 100% with just this past training camp. Like, it's unfortunate. This is a part of the game, and you've seen it fully with Troy Anderson. You've seen it fully with Braylon Trice, and it's one of those things that, like, those are – we won't know what those players are or what they can be until you get any type of help from them at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what ArcAng 3180 said as well. He was excited about Trice, and it just sucks that we didn't have the opportunity to kind of see him, and we just don't know. I mean, remains a question mark to this day. But what doesn't remain a question mark is giving back from Kirk Cousins, and the fact that you guys can double up on something today. We'll tell you about it in the look ahead. Boy, I tell you, our crazy weather is up and down, like literally. I'm like, 1 minute it's hot in this town, and 1 minute it's like freezing in this town, and you just got to never know what to do. So it's kind of like the up and down that we talk about for the class of 2024, but some good things coming out of Flowery Branch, or really coming out of the city and for the city. Kirk Cousins showing love with a partnership with Mercedes-Benz. The Mercedes-Benz announced Thursday it's donating 12 e-Sprinter vans as part of a campaign called Holidays with Love. He's one of the ambassadors who's donating his e-Sprinter to the City of Refuge. And if you know anything about the City of Refuge, it's couple blocks from the Benz. They focus on health and wellness, housing, job training, youth development. Bijan Robinson and Matt Ryan Jarvis are also 2 other ambassadors who selected Atlanta Public Schools and Raising Expectations, Inc., respectively, as their organizations to receive the van. Good stuff from these Falcons, and of course from the former Falcon great Matt Ryan.
Oh, absolutely. This is what this time of year is all about, right? It's about giving. Not only just funds, time too. Time is just as valuable in my book. So when you think about that area, Atlanta Public Schools, as a Atlanta Public School alum myself, I understand. Hey, we need that time. Like, we want to be able to see that. So for those guys to take time out to donate and and donate their time as well, I feel like this is what it's all about. And those guys, especially Matt. Like, I miss Matt. Can we talk about that? Like, I just miss too. I miss Deuce. Like, I watch him on Sundays in the studio. The man just killing it, and I'm not surprised at all by that.
Yeah,
because I didn't understand what Matt brought to the table from because he didn't have the super talent, right? The big arm and all this stuff. So guys like that, they have to figure out a way to get an edge. And I feel like him being a student of the game and putting the time and the work and all that stuff is what brought he brought himself up to the level that he played at when he was wearing his uniform. So yeah, but yeah, I've been missing Matt. Like I miss Matt.
Well, Tori, that was always my tagline on his way out of Atlanta. You guys keep maligning Matt, but Matty Ice, you're gonna miss him when he's gone. But I'm so glad to see him still continuing to have a presence and a partnership with the Falcons organization and with the city of Atlanta, with what he's doing in working with the eSprinter van program and donating his to Raising Expectations, and also with Bijan Robinson donating his to APS, and of course with Kirk Cousins choosing City of Refuge.
Yeah, I think that, just to the conversation of Matt Ryan, like he continues to make like Atlanta proud. And I think he continues to be somebody that, it really is true. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. Yeah. And I remember saying kind of like in the moment of the last couple of years of the Matt Ryan era, it's like, I don't think people know how good they have it with him. Yeah. And, you sometimes you only learn that going through kind of what the Falcons have gone through in the last, 3 seasons. But, it's nice to see kind of like his legacy continue in Atlanta, because I think he could have been angry, like he could have just kind of like washed his hands and moved on. But that's not who Matt Ryan is. Atlanta is home for Matt Ryan. And it's, talking about like other players like, Grady Jarrett still has an impact in the city of Atlanta. Like you don't have to go very far to like look at or talk to like AJ Terrell winning Walter Payton Man of the Year nomination to see that like Grady Jarrett's impact of being an Atlanta guy truly influenced AJ Terrell. That's one of the first things he said after he won the club nomination for the Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Yes.
Bijan Robinson continues to be just the incredible human that Bijan Robinson is. Like, just point blank period. And I think like all of this is really good just to see for me personally too, that like as bad as things have been on the field and how tough of a season this has been, even for like me personally having to kind of have one foot in one door and one foot in another, like it's nice to have these reminders that at the end of the day, like football is entertainment. It's for fun. It's not life. Like my life is not Atlanta Falcons football. Like it is, my life is mine, and I'm proud to like work for and work with these individuals who make impacts in the community that these guys do.
Yeah, and it's something that we've seen from them consistently, but it's nice to see it in Atlanta. And yeah, low key, we hear the term now probably thrown around more than ever in the last year or two. I feel like I've heard elite processor, but I feel like he was that. Like Matt Ryan was, head in the game like no other. I think the way you called it out, Jarvis, student of the game. I love him in studio. I love him in the booth. I think that it was a natural progression for him to do that. And again, he could be anywhere. Like he could have decided to make his final destination anywhere and impact any community. But Matt Ryan, as the former Falcon, if you will, Bijan, of course, and Kirk as the current Falcons, but for Matt Ryan to still say, hey, this is the community I want to live in and impact, is pretty darn impressive, all things considered.
Yes. And you're watching Phillip Rivers come back at age 44, and you're like, hey, Falcons,
look at you stirring the pot.
Quarterback, Matt,
Matt was asked about that this week.
That would be so Falcony. The Falcons time Matt Ryan to come back to play a couple games until doggone Michael Penix gets health.
I mean, give him a whole off season. Give him a whole off season.
Exactly.
Look at what Phillip Rivers did with like virtually no walk. Oh, wait a minute, and don't forget, Joe Flacco is about 77 too, and Joe Flacco did his thing for a minute. Let's be real. God. So I mean, Aaron, you're not off the beaten path of possibilities. Yeah. I mean, what do they say? 30 is the new 20 and 40 is the new 30. And,
so yeah, that would certainly be fun if Matt Ryan was like, because I saw the clip that was floating around over the weekend when they were talking about Phillip Rivers, and he was like, sometimes he's watching the games and he's like, I could still do this, even though my body kind of betrays you. But as Tori said, like, we got 9 months of an off season to get, that body ready. And we just need you for like 4 to 6 games, man. We don't need you for 16, 17 games next year. So just something to think about. But, sort of piggybacking in all seriousness on what Tori said, like as frustrating as the Falcons often are on the field, they are far from that off the field. And I think a lot of that is owed to Arthur Blank and his vision for the team of wanting to be the team that is also representative of Atlanta on the field, but also off the field. The on the field stuff, we're still trying to get there, but the off the field stuff, they never disappoint. And as Jarvis said, during this time of year, it really shows. And as Tori said, like, ultimately, like the impact of these football games and the results of these wins and losses and living and dying by these wins and losses as fans and whatnot, like we feel it in the moment, but it's these things that really matter. It's like the things that can change people's individual lives. Like, Kyle Pitts dropping a pass, as frustrating as it feels in the moment, is not really going to hopefully have long-term impacts over the rest of your life. But some of these things with players giving back and with AJ Terrell being, the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee and all that stuff, like these are the things that ultimately can change lives. You have work done as part of the ownership and all the things that he's done throughout his NFL career and post NFL career with giving back to various communities. These are the things that ultimately matter in the long term in real life as opposed to on the football field. And so that's just, it's heartwarming to see things like this. And it's just a reminder of what really matters when it comes to this sport and this team, this organization, and this franchise.
Yeah. And for what some of the players have done this season, Jarvis, recognition matters too, Fan voting for the Pro Bowl ends today. Player and coaches get to vote until Friday. But today is actually a double-up vote day for fans. So which Falcons player or players do you feel have made the case for themselves for the Pro Bowl?
I'm gonna start right there with the guy who has been leading, in the total scrimmage yards from scrimmage, and Bijan Robinson. Like if he's not a candidate to double up or triple up or quadruple up or vote for it on different IP addresses, man, he'll do all that. He deserves it. So I think that's where I would start, because I feel like Bijan he's been Bijan. Right, you'll throw a couple of little fumbles in there every now and then, but hey, man, cool. We can work on that. What I'm saying? We're good. You know what I'm saying? Get with your boy. I can show you a little something. You just gotta pay me for them. You gotta pay me for my time. You know what I'm saying? I got some people I can connect you with. You know what I'm saying? I'm connected around these parts in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Like I get you right, Bijan. But seriously though, Bijan Robinson is the guy that you need to vote for. That's he's been that dude. He's really elevated himself, I feel, into that top 2, top 3 running back. And potentially could you move to number 1, you start winning some football games around this ball.
Facts. What about for you, Tori? When you kind of look across this landscape of this roster, you look across even a disappointing season, there are always still standouts. And Jarvis just called out one of those standouts. Any other players, and of course, co-sign on Bijan, please and thank you if you want to, but any other players as well that you want to see, hey, fans, you got today to double up on a vote, double up.
Yeah, obviously Bijan, he's number 1. Sure. So co-sign there. I think it's unfortunate that Drake London has been hurt as long as he has, because I do think that he, to the point of where he was like absolutely deserving of a Pro Bowl games nomination, selection, all of those things. I don't know if that's in the cards for him now that he hasn't been on the field in a month, but I think it doesn't wipe away what he did and how important he is to this organization. Defensively, there are a lot of guys. I think Caden Ellis is continually one of the best middle linebackers and has no credit for being one of the best middle linebackers in the league. I think that what James Pearce Jr., Jalen Walker, Brandon Dorless have done in revitalizing this Falcons pass rush, like I think that's deserving of Pro Bowl nods. But the problem is, and this is the problem that has kind of been the case for the Falcons over the last few years, is that like they're not winning games. Yeah. So you look at the vast majority of people who like kind of are the leaders in the clubhouse in terms of Pro Bowl votes. It's guys, individuals who are having these big performances on winning teams. The Falcons have individual pieces: Bijan, Drake, Jalen, James, Brandon, Caden, all of these guys having spectacular singular performances, but on a team that is out of playoff contention. and that changes things, but it doesn't change the fact that those individual performances are good enough for Pro Bowl votes.
Yeah, indeed. And Free, what about you? Pro Bowl votes. Who should these guys go out and, as Jarvis said, go in the incognito browser and vote again and again and again so they can double up for the
incognito browser?
You don't know about that incognito browser?
I do.
Okay.
But how you know about the incognito browser?
Free. we will not sit at why Tenitra knows about the incognito window and why she uses it.
Okay, I was baited. I wasn't going to be in it. I think Bijan is the one guy that you would absolutely pound the table for. And for the opposite reason that Tori talked about with Drake London, where the injury probably hurts his chances of making the Pro Bowl, I think you could say the opposite might be true for someone like Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts has had his best season. Mm-hmm. Kyle Pitts, I don't think based off of his season alone is a Pro Bowl type year. But when you look at the injuries to guys like Tucker Kraft, guys like George Kittle, guys like Sam Laporta, and if you're going to disqualify them because they haven't played the full season, it's like, okay, well, if Kyle Pitts is like the 5th best tight end in the NFC, it's like, okay, well, now he kind of qualifies. And then you get this game like you have on Thursday night with the recency bias. And it's like, okay, go spam that Pro Bowl vote for Kyle Pitts. And I think you could maybe make a case for him sneaking in on the NFC squad and getting his second Pro Bowl of his NFL career.
Well, the most recent numbers that came out, and they're a little bit dated, granted, but interestingly enough, you actually have I think it's 6 Falcons players that are still ranking at the top 10 at their positions in Pro Bowl voting. Of course, Bijan Robinson, he's in 4th place. So Falcons fans, do your part. Drake London, Tori, believe it or not, was in 7th place as of like a week ago. So the numbers, the updated numbers haven't come out just yet. Brandon Dorlus at defensive tackle in 7th place as well. Kate Nellis, 9th place at linebacker. Xavier Watts, 5th at safety, and Bradley Pinion, 3rd. Amongst punters in the league. So it'll be interesting to see how things wrap up. But yeah, the Falcons definitely have some opportunities there for the obvious guy, Bijan Robinson, but maybe a few more will sneak in as well. Thanks to our everydayers for making the Falcon Squad Show your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked on Falcons with Aaron as your host, as your second listen as well. And you can catch Jarvis as a frequent contributor for Locked on Falcons. And check out some of Tori's great work at AtlantaFalcons.com. The Falcon Squad Show and Locked on Falcons are part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day. We'll see you next time.